is the Autism's Angels article, part 3, that I'm taking a look at, that originally ran in Town and Country magazine back in August of 2006. Now, there's a lot of information in here, and there's a lot of triggers that are there as well for everything that you can imagine. I am talking about organizations, anti-autistic organizations. There's going to be a lot of othering, person first language, and ableism, and just a bunch of just stuff that comes along with this territory. So make sure to take breaks if you need to, or step out if you need to, and take time for self-care. I'm going back to 2003 and highlighting the work of the autism cabal that coordinated themselves back in 2003 and has expanded into what we now know as the Autism Speaks Influence Network. So, all right, with that said, let's get started. So, all right, I'm going to share this article segment first. I'm going to read that in full, and then I'm going to share with you my autistic perspective and in the summary at the end. And it's also going to bring us to a little bit of what just happened with Autism Speaks recently. So we're going to go full circle from the past to the present in just this one deconstruction. So, all right, let's see what else this article has to say. The subhead we're going to start with here says, appropriately, Autism Speaks. For Bob and Suzanne Wright, the first response to the riddle of autism was to raise awareness and dollars. They founded Autism Speaks in 2005. Their decision fueled by seeing their daughter Katie struggle to cope as her son Christian lost his 800-word vocabulary and displayed horrific tantrums, and by witnessing medical science's helplessness. We went to Columbia University Medical Center for a complete diagnosis, which took several days and cost $10,000, says Bob Wright. They said, "We're sorry, we can't find a medical abnormality that we can treat." Almost as the good news, they added, "Many of these children develop medical problems and will be happy to treat those if that happens." We were shocked, he says. As we learned more, we realized we're in an epidemic. People are wandering around looking for help, and doctors are saying there isn't much research, and sorry, you can't get insurance reimbursement for this. After the Wrights started to speak openly about their grandson, Home Depot co-founder Bernie Marcus, who is a longtime childhood disabilities philanthropist, jump-started the new organization with a $25 million donation. The two aims of Autism Speaks are to raise autism awareness hugely by shining a megawatt spotlight on it, and to fund scientific and biomedical research. Build awareness, says the Wrights, and the funding will come. Out of the $29 billion NIH budget, autism gets only $102 million, says Bob. AIDS gets $2.9 billion, and breast cancer gets $700 million. As they should, but people need to understand that this is the most prevalent childhood developmental disorder in the United States. In its first year, Autism Speaks raised more than $40 million, as well as untold levels of awareness. After the Today Show aired a 5-part series called Autism, the Hidden Epidemic, Bob and Suzanne Wright were invited to speak on the show. Suzanne has discussed the issue on The View, as has Bob in an interview with Charlie Rose. The couple have also been guests multiple times on Don Emus' radio show. This year, Autism Speaks launched a 3-year public service ad campaign in partnership with the Advertising Council. One full-page ad features a ponytailed little girl playing the piano and reads, "Odds of a child performing at Carnegie Hall is 1 in 73,000. Odds of a child being diagnosed with autism is 1 in 166. Last February, in a major step, Autism Speaks merged with NAAR, a nonprofit organization that funds scientific research on autism. One big goal is to search for biomedical causes so that we can develop treatments, says Goldstein. As the chair of Autism Speaks Scientific Affairs Committee, he oversees research programs such as the ongoing Baby SIBS project, which monitors the neurological development of infant siblings of autistic children. He's also managing Autism Speaks' launch of the Interactive Autism Network, a national registry and database that helps connect families with one another and with researchers. The Rights are now lobbying for the Combating Autism Act, which would authorize nearly $1 billion for research over the next 5 years. Not enough studies are done on children with autism to draw conclusions about its causes, and that's extremely frustrating to parents, says Bob. While he urges families to get involved in raising consciousness, he also acknowledges a sad truth. Autism is a 24/7 problem. The children have to be looked after all the time, and the parents tend to be exhausted and broke. They don't have the time or the resources to do many things, so we are trying to speak for them. Funding frontier science. Jim and Marilyn Simons, also catalyzed by NCEL's advice, have pledged to pay out an astounding $138 million for autism research over the next 5 years. One of the Simons Foundation's first widely trumpeted grants was $13 million for a 5-year genetics study by Michael Wigler, Ph.D., and Jonathan Sebat, Ph.D., at Long Island's prestigious Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory, home to one of DNA's decoders, James Watson. They are using a cutting-edge technology to do genome scans of autistic children's nuclear families and compare them with normal genomes, seeking out autism-linked mutations. In another example of the new synergy at work in the field, Wigler and Sabat are studying DNA that was procured by LA's Cure Autism Now, founded by film producer John Shaystack and his wife, Portia Iverson, in 1995. Not only did the couple go public about their son's Dove's autism, but the organization also funded research and sent clinicians into the homes of families with more than one autistic child in order to collect blood samples and create a gene bank. The first giant eureka moment that will make the big pharmaceutical companies feel there's something there has not come yet. But I'm confident that it will, says Shaystack. Until that time arrives, everyone agrees that the early diagnosis and intervention, the earlier the better, are keys to a brighter prognosis. Treating autism early. As limited as our biomedical understanding of autism still is, the supporting evidence for some educational and therapeutic approaches has been gathering for decades. At this point, it's clear intensive therapy, begun when a young child's brain is at maximum neuroplasticity and most easily rewires itself, can lead to profound improvements in speech, relating, and learning. With early intervention, we're seeing many more kids doing much better, says leading researcher and child psychiatrist Fred Volkmar, MD, of the Yale Child Study Center. Right now, getting a diagnosis and early intervention for a child of 3 is a big deal, but eventually we're going to get these services at 6 months. He offers this ringing testament to the power of early intervention. In March, I gave a conference on how to help autistic kids who go to college. 10 years ago, I'd never have thought it would happen. For a handful of children, early intervention has led to the almost unthinkable actual recovery. Although technically autism is not curable, a child can advance to the point where he or she no longer meets the clinical diagnostic criteria for the condition. This happened for Jake, the son of Karen Sif Excorn, a former management consultant. In her book, The Autism Sourcebook, Everything You Need to Know About Diagnosis, Treatment, Coping, and Healing, Exhorn describes how Jake, diagnosed with autism at 2, recovered after several years of intensive ABA and other therapies. Now 9, he appeared last September on Good Morning America. I recognize that the recovery rate is only 5 to 10%. But I'm hoping that with all of the research going on now, this rate will increase, says Excorn. One of my goals in writing the book was to offer parents hope. Not false hope, but hope. Everyone says knowledge is power, but knowledge is also hope. Given her philosophy, it's no wonder that Excorn is on the board of the New York Center for Autism and enthusiastically supports its charter school. NYCA, building from the ground up. After the Slatkins decided to create the school, Laura joined forces with Eileen Lanier, my apologies if I'm mispronouncing your name, an employment attorney whose second son, Ari, aged 10, is autistic, to research and write the school's charter application. It was a tedious 2-year process, but it paid off. Last September, the NYCA Charter School, on the second floor of the PS 50 on East 100th Street in Manhattan, opened its doors to its first class. 4 boys, aged 5 through 9, with moderate to severe autism. Adding about 1 new student per month, the school will reach its full capacity, 28, by 2008. A sad but not unexpected irony is that neither David nor Ari is a student at the school. Ari didn't win a place through the lottery, and David was never entered. Nor is there much chance that either child will gain admission in the future. David is now enrolled in a school in Queens. Ari is being homeschooled. For its founders, the NYCA Charter School is truly a labor of love. The school undoubtedly meets a need. Some 50 families applied for the first 12 openings, says Lehner, who, having resigned her partnership at the law firm to care for Ari and to help launch the school, is now president of its board. In contrast to the public school's special education classes, the NYCA Charter School has a 1-to-1 teacher-student ratio for its ABA curriculum, which its advocates say is optimal for most autistic children. The instructors rotate among the kids every half hour or so to ensure that a child learns to generalize, which is one of the autistic children's challenges. Lanier says, a child with autism might learn something from you, but if he doesn't practice it with other people or at home, he may never apply it in a more general way. The one-on-one ABA approach, in which a teacher guides a student through a series of steps to learn social, educational, and life skills, anything, oh goodness, from making eye contact or sitting quietly to saying hello or learning numbers and reading, can be grueling, but it is undoubtedly effective at drawing autistic children out of their isolation. The students also interact with typically developing students who throng PS50's downstairs halls and classrooms, reflecting the NYCA vision of giving autistic children the education they need while integrating them into the larger community as much as possible. We've married public education and a state-of-the-art school, but it's very expensive methodology, says Laura Slatkin. The city spends about $62,000 a year on each NYCA student. Our next question is, how do we educate 4,500 children in a cost-effective manner and maintain the quality of the program? Elaine Lanier and Laura Slatkin are not alone in their crusade for top quality schooling for autistic children. On Long Island, the Child Development Center for the Hamptons, CDCH, for children from birth through age 5 was founded in 1996 by Don Zimmerman Hummel, whose son John, now 16, is autistic. In 2000, Hummel added that the CDCH charter school for grades K through 8, with 210 students enrolled, the CDCH is now raising money for an impressive new preschool facility, and 2 veterans in the field, the Eden Institute and the Alpine Learning Group, founded in 1975 and 1988, respectively, and long considered the gold standard in autism education and services, will soon launch capital campaigns to develop new programs. In the past decade, the number of schools devoted to autistic children has mushroomed. Crunching the numbers. No matter how much is done, everyone agrees that more services are desperately needed. Autism is a lifelong disability. When students age out of school at 21, the state no longer pays for their educational services, aids, transportation, intensive ABA. Their families must apply to the State Disability Fund for aid, which, even if granted, falls far short of previous help. One thing that no one has taken into account is the vast socio-economic impact of autism, says Shaystack. Looking ahead, just as society is hit with the Alzheimer's crisis, there will also be 1.5 million people with autism who are no longer part of the school system. The burden will fall on the state and federal government. It's huge. Autism costs society close to $90 billion in a year in education and services, and it will just get worse. Right now, a lot of it is borne quietly by the families, but that can't go on forever. Autism's financial toll is truly catastrophic. Therapies for a child with autism can run more than $70,000 a year. Parents take out second and third mortgages, and marriages buckle under the strain. It's been speculated that the divorce rate among parents of autistic children is 80%. whatever else autism means to parents, it usually means the end of their dreams for a normal. And that's where I'm going to end it for this segment 3 from the article.